Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's call, our book study discussion on Winds of Spirit by Renee Baribeau. And this week we're talking about the cardinal winds. So we're beginning with the introduction to the cardinal winds and also speaking on the wind of the east. My name is Brigid Hopkins, and thank you so much for being here. I'll take just a few minutes to bring everyone together. And I'm feeling inspired to sing a song that we co-created during the Omega Institute, 5-day wind of spirit gathering and wind work dynamics. This is what we sang around the fire the night of our ceremony at the Omega Institute. Spirit of the wind, carry me. Spirit of the wind, carry me home. Spirit of the wind, carry me home to myself. Spirit of the fire, carry me. Spirit of the fire, carry me home. Spirit of the fire, carry me home to myself. Spirit of the water, carry me. Spirit of the water, carry me home. Spirit of the water, carry me home to myself. Spirit of the earth, carry me. Spirit of the earth, carry me home. Spirit of the earth, carry me home to myself. Just taking a moment, placing your hand over your heart, and offering a silent moment of gratitude. Anything that you're grateful for in this moment. Thank you. So as I begin the book discussion, I just want to share that no one has actually joined the call yet, so it'll be a lot of me speaking to you about what has struck me while going through the introduction and also beginning with the cardinal wind, Eurus of the East. So one of the things that I always find most fascinating about this work is you never can tell what's going to blow in, right? And as I read through the chapter, I really was seeing evidence of it currently taking place in my life. So I'm in the East for whatever reason because I need that medicine right now. And one of the things that I found most interesting while reading through this chapter is all about the mind. And, you know, in the tradition that I'm studied in is the Toltec tradition. And we talk a lot about agreements. And when we think about where our mind is at, our mind itself, all the beliefs that we're holding, the actions that we take from those beliefs, the way that we're walking in the world really comes from an agreement in one way or another. And one of the agreements that has been really active again in my life is my agreement with money. And also relationships. And it's not a coincidence because those two are related, right? What is my relationship with money? How do I treat myself? How do I treat others? And so I'm just in this beautiful whirl right now, if you will, noticing all of the agreements that are active and the actions that I've taken from those agreements subconsciously. And now they're coming out into the open. Another way that people talk about that is bringing the shadow into the light, right? So I'm doing some pretty deep shadow work right now as we're entering the East. So in the beginning, it's the introduction to the cardinal winds. I love this blessing, so I'd like to read that to you. A child blessing, turned by the winds, goes the one I send yonder. Yonder he goes, who is whirled by the winds, goes where the four hills of life and the four winds are standing. There, into the midst of the winds do I send him, into the midst of the winds, standing there. So much trust in that. When I think about my children, and I was just thinking about this the other day, how I offered, my husband and I, we both offered each of our children at the time of their birth to the earth. We didn't have a traditional baptism, but it was a ceremony where we laid each child onto the earth and really had this communion with, we are entrusting this sacred being to you. The sacred being has come from you and is here to be a steward during its lifetime, his or her lifetime. And, we entrust our children to you. And so when I read that blessing, it just really took me back to that parental moment in my life and how much trust goes into that. I see that Carrie has joined us. Welcome, Carrie. It looks like you're driving right now. I won't put you on the spot. Let's see. I'll just unmute you since it's only the two of us.
Oops. Thank you. Yes, I'm a little late, better late than never.
No, you're fine. Welcome, welcome. I'll start with the very first note that I made. It was on page 50. And the paragraph is, cardinal winds are timeline markers in your cycle of experience. Navigating experience by cooperating with your cardinal winds improves every relationship. With a shift in your perception, the world aligns and you become a captain in the sea of change. And I think someone else had noted this on the wall too. That's a really profound invitation. And I'll share with you. So I was saying when you first signed on, Carrie, that while I began reading chapter 6, I started noticing how chapter 5, that just by reading it, I already started to open and things began to take shape and begin to move, if you will. And one of the biggest ones is about my relationship with myself, but my younger self, and how it keeps presenting in my relationship with one of our children and also my spouse. And it was a really nifty discovery, a wind epiphany, if you will, because this has been going on in my life since, I think a teenager. So, navigating experience by cooperating with your cardinal winds improves every relationship, and emphasis on cooperating. Because my first instinct when I started to see the pattern was to clench up and shut down and no, I don't want to deal with that. Well, hello, Brigid. No wonder it's been in your life since you were a teenager and you're in your 40s. What's going on there, girl? Like, how many more times are you going to shut down and clench up? Really? This is here for you. It's happening for your good and the good of everyone around you. Are you willing to accept the offer? And so then that takes me into receiving. Like, how well adapted am I at receiving generosity? Because really, when we're in cooperation, that's a state of generosity. And so it's just fascinating to see how just turning these pages and beginning the exercise of opening what was ready to come right in and wind smack me, if you will. So I woke up. I'm paying attention. I'm awake. Carrie, would you like to add anything to that? Or I can, again, like I said, you're driving, so I don't want to put you on the spot.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a great share. What struck me, and I don't remember the page, like what you're saying of cooperation, there was a sentence about acknowledging the winds And that's where it starts. Like for me, just once you acknowledge them, you know, there is a choice. There is a choice to cooperate, or as you said, to accept an offering. And once I once I read this book, it was like a huge acknowledgement that you can't not see
Mm-hmm.
or feel or know after that. And so something you always knew was there, but in a very different, profound way. So yeah.
Well, all right. So I'm going to piggyback off you because I love our conversations and we're being recorded. So now the whole world gets to enjoy it with us. um, so the pattern that is alive is me feeling invisible. Okay. So just hold that, like me feeling invisible. And the awareness that when I step outside into nature, my habit has been to just go about my business unless I'm going into the forest and I'm really intentional, right? Because I've set aside the time, I'm being proactive in working on this relationship. But what happens to the other, 23 hours of my life? And so I notice, well, hello, I'm walking outside, nature is greeting me, and I haven't even said hello. I have not acknowledged nature, which is not acknowledging me, which is the pattern of feeling invisible. Can you see how that goes all the way around? So every time I felt invisible and kept seeing that outside, it was because I wasn't even acknowledging my existence, the existence of me.
That's powerful. And they do say, there is that saying that nature is a mirror.
Yeah,
Yeah. The,
right? I mean, it's
a fun house, a mirror of.
a fun house of mirrors. Absolutely. I like the ones personally when I get really squatty and my face like all pinches up. This one was not as ecstatic, but yeah, I
No.
was like, wow, I haven't even
Yeah.
said hello. And imagine if someone lived with you and you went by every single day and never even said hello. Like, what would be the nature of that relationship? There wouldn't be one. It would be non-existent.
Yeah, that's powerful.
So that like really jumped out at me this week. Like, hello, how many times a day do you say hello to nature? How many times a day do you say thank you? Right?
Right.
I mean, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. I just keep hearing a beeping sound. I wasn't sure if I lost you or not. So it's very, very interesting to me how something so simple can create.
I think Paula is trying to join.
Yes, I'm on too now.
Welcome.
Thanks. Sorry I'm
Hi,
late.
Paula.
Hey, Bridget. Hey,
No, it's okay.
Karen.
Thank you. Welcome.
Well, just to follow up on your
Paula, just to catch you up for a moment.
yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say your question about thanking or saying hello. I do that every day actually with my trees but just a gratitude practice of thanking the four elements and nature beings and so forth. And it's been a very powerful practice.
Good. That's
Amen.
beautiful. They're so like lucky to have that attention.
Well, it's great to feel connected.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and that was right before you had come on, I was sharing how when we begin working with the wind, one of the things that has been consistent in my work with the wind is how exactly what I'm needing will arrive. And it's very seldom what I'm intending. My attention can be over here, trying to manifest or be in, creationship with something. And then the wind's just whatever in the way of that to my attention. And so, one of the biggest intentions in this group and with the community as a whole is learning how to be in relationship. That has been my work this, at least for the last year, and being really purposeful about it. But there are just such subtle things that have become habit to me that really impact that relationship, and not necessarily in a positive way or not a conscious way, I want to say. And one of those things is just when I leave my home to say, hello, good morning. Thank you for the beauty that's around me. Thank you for the breath that's within me. Thank you for the ground that I walk upon, and may I walk softly and gently and purposefully in your care, something like that. But I don't do that every day unless I'm going into the woods. And so it's just, I really saw how some of my mindlessness was coming back to me in my relationships with the people that are closest to me. And it just helped me to bring everything full circle about where am I placing my attention? Where am I not? What am I forgetting to do? And how is that creating an impact that isn't really benefiting the relationship and the closeness in the relationship? And the one sentence that I had shared was, navigating experience by cooperating with your cardinal winds improves every relationship. And that I'm really seeing evidence of that right now, which is just so beautiful. All right. So welcome. I'm glad you're here. You're caught up. Here we go. The next thing that I noticed that had jumped out at me was to visualize your life as a compass. Draw a large circle, which represents your experience, on a sheet of paper. Divide the sheet of paper into 4 quarters. The top of the circle represents the north, the bottom south, the right side east, and the left west. Life and daylight begins in the east. The south is your adolescent phase. As you approach the west, you are positioned equidistant between life and death. North to northwest is the area of your wisdom years, while the north represents the pinnacle of your achievements. The territory from north to east is the return to the earth from which you came, dust that moves freely about in the wind. I was just wondering if anyone had the opportunity to do that, if you actually ran through that exercise to see what really jumped out at you.
I didn't do the exercise, but I thought it through in a way. But really, what I was thinking about with that compass, and we've done compass work in the mastery and things like that. But I was just thinking about where I am right now is almost straddling. Like I have like 1 foot in the west and 1 foot in the east, and and that's really how I feel right now. And but I feel like I finally hit a balance with that. I'm about to take a new direction, and I feel like I feel like I'm kind of in a few directions, but straddling the compass is what it feels like.
That's really cool. Well, and it makes sense when you think about just coming through the full moon, going into the new, there's that in between where you're between the polarities. And so that's what it feels like as I'm listening to, is like you're really in between the night and day. The west and the east is also a representation of the thoughts that you're ready to let go of, because you've been conscious of them and they don't serve you, that's going to go down in the west. And the ones that you're still trying to, you know, kind of weigh in on, like, do I need to see this? Do I need to know this? Is there anything more here for me to come into my consciousness? So that's beautiful.
Yeah,
Look at
absolutely.
you, straddler. Were you a gymnast?
Yeah, no, it's exactly how I feel. Yep. There's a lot of endings,
Yeah,
there's a
that's
lot of
cool.
beginnings, and in the gap, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And I can, like, when you're speaking, I hear the sense of contentment,
Mm,
which sometimes that gap can bring up a lot of uncertainty, right? But you sound really comfortable with it. Like, yeah, I can just stay here for a little bit until it's time to
yep.
pivot. Yeah, that's cool. Thank you. Paula, would you like to chime in?
I will. You know, I have a hard time relating this to my life. I mean, I can read the book and I can
Mm.
understand the words, but I don't understand how to use it or apply it exactly. I can just say when I started the wind work with Renee's class, you know, I had a month of hang on for the ride, sort of. It was a great month. And then I crashed for a month, which is what I'm coming.
Mm.
But it's also fall is a hard time for me. So this isn't, it's not all, I don't think, from the wind work. It's some of it is just
Mm-hmm.
my stuff. But so then, so I don't know. I mean, I understand, you know, the East is new beginnings, the East, the sun rises in the East, and I understand it's mental and, you know, the different symbolic things, but I don't quite get the part, I don't know how it comes into my life or how to interpret, I don't know. Like, I don't even have words for it. So how to,
Yeah, no, and you know what?
how to apply it, I
But
guess.
I am glad. Yeah, but I'm glad that you're here and that you're bringing that into the circle, because it's really important to acknowledge that. The wind work is somewhat theory, right? It's theoretical. I say this all the time. You can't grab onto it. We can see it in the clouds. We see it dance along the water. We watch it shake the leaves of the tree. But how are we orienting with it? That seems a little bit more abstract, right? And so, like, that exercise of the visualizing your life as a compass, that is not one dimensional. That's 3 dimensions. So that in and of itself is more of a visual experience. And so one of my questions is, and I'm always curious about this with our community, is what type of learner are you? Are you more tactile? Do you like spiritual? Because then that helps gauge how we bring the information forward so that it's more relatable and digestible.
Yeah, I think I am really having a hard time to get the theory into, you know, I can read it, it's beautifully written, but how to apply it is where I'm kind of a bit at a loss.
Mm-hmm.
Um, or, I mean, other than, yes, I took the wind walks and called in the winds and said the prayers. You know, that I'm very much a show me. I mean, very concrete. Not that I'm not intelligent, but I really need that.
Yeah.
Show it to me in 3D. I want to see how you do it, you know? I don't know. Maybe I
Yes.
have a
Yes.
learning
Nope. And
disability. I don't know. But
not at all. I'm a very visual learner. I am too. And so some of it has been a practice when I'm in nature, thinking about some of these concepts in the book and watching it in nature, or watching myself while in nature so I can become part of that experience. You know, so if we're thinking about our body as a compass, how would it be if I were laying and orienting in these different directions? Or how would it be if I'm standing and orienting in those directions? So thinking of my arms as the dials and my central point, my whole stem being the, I am at a loss for what they actually call it, but what's holding the dials, right? So what's holding my arm is me, my torso, and I'm able to pivot my arms because they're attached to the torso, just like on the compass itself, how the needle can spin because it's anchored by that pin in the center, right? So just kind of adding myself into the mechanics, if you will, of the compass has helped me learn some of these concepts a little bit more concretely. But I do agree with you. If you're a visual learner, it is hard to read this and imagine it. I need to actually see it once, and then I can run away with it. So thank you for bringing that into the circle, Paula. It's really important. And you're super relatable. You don't have a learning disability. I mean, I'm not one that I can diagnose that for you, but then we both have it. All right. So we're in it together. Yeah. Like, no.
Good to have friends in high places.
Yeah, exactly. So I hope that helps a little bit.
Yeah, well, imagine myself as a compass. Now I can kind of get, I mean, I have seen compasses, and the needle anchored in the middle and sides. And I do look in the 4 directions when I'm out in my yard, I have spun around and tried to feel where the wind is and that kind of thing. So yeah, I've done a little bit of that. So, okay.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
What helped me when I was first starting with the wind, because when everybody starts where they start, and it can come, fast or slow or easy or difficult, whatever for individual. But what helped me, I was trying to understand, and when I stopped trying to, understand how to apply it and just ask how to apply it, like invite the wind and work with the wind, things started to click. Instead of trying to understand everything, I just started to just ask to be shown or to make a relationship with the wind that's in front of me, instead of trying to figure it all out. And just maybe start, I would just suggest that too, is just to start with what's in front of you, and not try to figure it all out. And I don't know if that helps, but it helped me.
No, that makes good sense. Thank you.
Okay. That really jumped out at me when I was on right on the front page of chapter 5. The sun rises in the east everywhere on the planet, and so it is with your life. The east wind is the source of all beginning. In literature, the east wind is often perceived as a strong disruptive force in nature. I'll skip past a little bit. In your life, you can be ushered in with the same disastrous endings prepare the way for hardy new beginnings. And the reason why this jumped out at me is because I've always, looked at a sunrise with this affinity of like, oh, look how beautiful. dichotomy of the same exact element. Still the East, still beginnings, but the way that I can welcome one and not the other, I'm like, that's really, it's interesting to notice that. So that's what captured my attention when I highlighted that.
I missed the beginning of what you said.
Oh, okay. The sun rises in the east everywhere on the planet, and so it is with your life. The east wind is the source of all beginnings. In literature, the east wind is often perceived as a strong disruptive force in nature. In your life, change can be ushered in with the same dynamic force of nature. Disastrous endings prepare the way for hardy new beginnings. And I said that stood out to me because when I see a sunrise, I'm always like, oh, look how beautiful that is. And, you know, welcome the new day. It's a new dawn, new chance, new opportunity. And then when my life gets turned upside down, I'm like, what the beep? I don't want to deal with this. But it's still the East. And so noticing that split in perception of like some of it I'm really welcoming and others I'm like, no, resistant, highly resistant. So that's why that stood out to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What page is that on? I'm trying to find it.
53.
What I was just thinking about is even like,
Okay.
you know, when you are saying the morning and it's like, oh, isn't it beautiful? And we can take that for granted, but it is so much perspective whether you're having a good day or a bad day, and how can we like use the wind to recenter, ground, take that as a sign of like where are we, and how can we use the wind to shift that from looking at the morning as maybe the morning is coming in disruptive, you know, things go wrong, we get in traffic, we, you know, whatever it is. And then we have the days that, oh, it's Sunday morning and everything's easy. But, you know, when we need the centering and when we need the wind work is when it isn't, when the east winds are not so easy, you know.
When they're really gusting, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's just, you know, like I said, it tickles me because I can see that, you know, that duality of like push off and accept, push off and accept. And so I really appreciated how they chose the word disruptive force. Like, yeah, it can be a disruptive force. That is for sure. Paula, are there any captions that stand out to you that you would like to share? Okay.
Well, there's something on page 55
Yeah.
at the bottom where it talked about this Vedic tradition of India. Imprinted memories from our waking lives, our dreams, daydreams, as well as our past and future lives are stored in the East. I'd really like to get a hold of those.
Well,
yeah.
I was going to say, I think we're learning to be careful what we ask for, or the way that we ask for it. Yeah, that's really been my lesson this week is, you know, I've been asking for a couple of things, but the way they're coming in, I wasn't really mindful of the way I asked. And so it's been a little like, whoo, is it hot in here or is it just me?
Can you give a concrete example of that? If you're able to share that.
Yeah, absolutely. I was in the middle of sharing, so I didn't want to keep repeating everything, but I'll be happy to share this and tell me where you chimed in. Okay. So I was saying that when I was a teenager, I started really noticing this belief that I'm invisible. And it was between myself and my mother. So every time I spoke to her, I felt like she couldn't hear me or even see me. I felt completely invisible. And so fast forward, so that belief and the pattern of it has been visible in my life ever since that time. So from like 12 or 13, and I'm in my 40s now. And it really ramped up again recently, in the last 2 weeks, but predominantly this week, Monday to be specific. And when I was looking at it and sorting through, like, why is this here again, and why does it hurt so bad, and why haven't I figured this out yet, and what shadows at play, and what's going on, not totally being mindful of the fact, well, you just started reading about the East again. And then I noticed as I was going out to do one of my nature practices, like I had busied myself the entire time with all these other things. And then when I entered into the forest, I stopped and became really present and mindful and said hello and offered gratitude and stepped in with intention. But I walked out my door, did 40 other things, and never said hello. So nature was invisible to me. I wasn't paying an ounce of attention to it. And when I think about the pattern that I've experienced all these years, it's really me who isn't being mindful of anything else around me. And all of those things are invisible to me. And so when someone shows me that mirror of invisibility, it's an opportunity to become conscious of how I'm not paying attention and I'm not seeing things and I'm not treating things with, engagement.
So did nature let you know that you were ignoring it?
Well, I would say the east winds did. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it wasn't a coincidence that once we started working in the, being with the East again, that came full circle. Like I could see the whole link. Instead of just pieces of the link, I saw the entire thing. And it's like, okay, now I have a choice. I have a pivot point here where I can continue to do the same thing that I've been doing, or now I can do something different. And it doesn't have to be a huge step, but it can be one small step to work towards, creating a whole new pattern.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're welcome. So on page 54, here we go. This is really big, you guys. So Paul, this was the other thing that I was saying that I noticed this week as well is, so it says chapter 11, you are facing an east wind. It means the given situation involves or should involve your mind in some manner. It is time to examine your thoughts and beliefs. For 10 years, I operated a holistic center to inspire healers to become skilled in the art of business. Many of the providers were unable to earn a suitable living. At the root of their poverty consciousness was the belief that the healers didn't deserve to be paid in exchange for services rendered. This assumption was historically rooted in indigenous ideology. There was a time in history when the community tended to the shaman's basic needs. And I was like, well, there it is, folks, because, even when we were starting up this book study, one of the things that I've been working on over and over and over again is my relationship with money. And when you think about if I'm treating other things as though they're invisible or they're not important, what do you think the relationship with money looks like? I'll tell you, pretty sparse. And I'm laughing, but it's not really funny to me. It's quite frustrating because I work really hard doing everything that I love, but my bank account does not reflect that. And that's a really big consciousness issue where I'm not being mindful of my relationship with money. I'm not treating it. Yeah, I have a lot of beliefs and actions around it that are not supporting where I want to be. Anyone else want to chime in?
This could only almost be funny because I heard money this morning. I'm hearing money now, and in the middle, I had to buy a new set of tires, which I didn't know until today. And I was so freaked out because I've had a lot of expenses and I don't have a lot of money. But I'm very I do a budget. I've designed a budget. I am mindful of it. But anyway, but the good news is with a lot of help, actually I got the tires, I got a discount. I paid less than I paid 5 years ago, and I was totally thrilled. But I think it's kind of funny.
Right? It's not a coincidence that it's coming up. Yeah.
Really?
I'm laughing.
Again?
I'm laughing because, Paula, you wanted a concrete example of the east wind.
Be careful what you ask for.
I'm laughing because Paula, you wanted a concrete example, and there's one in your own life.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, you gotta love it, right? And I was laughing because when you think about tires, what holds a tire up? What inflates a tire? And I've had a leaky tire on my car, I don't know, 2 weeks now. I'm like, why am I losing all this air? You know, what is this message? What is the symbolism behind it? And I don't have an answer for you yet, but I will tell you that historically, I thought that I wanted to blame Toyota because the last 2 Toyotas I've had, it's been the same issue of leaky tires. There's never a puncture. It is air literally escaping my tire. And they don't know why. But I know it's a me issue, like it's something trying to get my attention, and it's symbolic in some way. But yeah, so I'm laughing for a different reason, Paula, because I have a leaky tire right now again.
Very interesting.
Yeah, yeah. So I'll keep you posted. I'm sure that message will come through loud and clear pretty soon. So, because I just asked for it. So. Yeah, so money and thinking about, you know, Renee says all the time that the ones that are here doing this work have some connection to shamanism. Either we are shamans in this lifetime actively practicing or have been in another lifetime. And so those agreements, again, remember the East, it's all about the mind, and the mind is about, you know, what are you believing and taking action on? And I call those agreements. But yeah, the money issue. And I'll tell you, it's much easier for me to trade. Like if you walked up to me and said, hey, my goat made this beautiful milk. Can I have a coaching session? I'd be like, sure, I'll trade you cheese for, you know, coaching. And that is part of that, you know, ideology from way back when, like the bartering system. It just makes so much sense to me. And that is easy for me to receive. I don't even think about it. But if you handed me $3,000 right now and told me to enjoy it, I would feel really uncomfortable. But I wouldn't feel uncomfortable with 3 buckets of cheese. So what is that? It just makes me laugh. The other thing right in that segment that I loved and I highlighted is change is a perpetual wind. I think we need bumper stickers that say that from the Wind Clan. Change is a perpetual wind. I love that. Was someone going to chime in?
I'm trying to understand what that means.
Change.
Well, things are always changing, right? So
even when we can't see it.
Okay. So it's the wind involved in all of it, is what that's saying, kind of?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
And the wind is always in motion, even in the doldrums. There is a slight, almost imperceptible breeze. Have you ever I mean, if everything were completely still, now this is me talking, this is not Renee, like from her book, but one of the things that I've been paying attention to is like, if there were no wind, period, we would not be breathing. So there is always some minute amount of wind. It just may not be getting you where you are intending to go. Like there's not enough inertia, right? From, say, a very strong breeze. But yeah. One of the other things that I really liked was, with practice, you will be able to navigate your way safely across the eastern slopes of your life. No matter how strong the winds may be blowing, you will soar high like an eagle, developing and sustaining a non-judgmental, clear vision and sense of purpose as you move through life. And the question that I had around that, because, you know, it states with practice. So I was thinking, like, how often do we purposefully challenge our thoughts and challenge our habits? Like, how often are we actively doing that without some external force creating the inquiry? Is that like a daily practice? Is it a monthly practice? Does anyone have a regular practice? I know that I do a lot of processing and paying attention, but I wouldn't say that I'm always looking to challenge a belief. It's almost like I need some catalyst.
Yeah, I have been, I think I might have commented on the wall about that for myself, where there's been a period of, I have to move away from these dogs. There's been a period of being like, oh, I have to be easy, gentle on myself because I'm working hard and I'm doing this and doing that. And I had to check myself because I was being, I actually needed movement and I needed to shake things up. And and I did ask the winds for it and got it. But yeah, I think checking in what's working and what's not working is, it's a big deal, because, you know, as far as talking about perpetual change in the wind, there needs to be, once you're aware, and this can go back to, you know, the beginning, acknowledging the wind. Once you ask for some support, you're gonna get it, and just, do we take action on it or not? But once you're open to the awareness, yeah, then we have a choice to move with the wind or not, or to sit with the wind or not. But just the short time I've been working with it, I've seen big changes in those practices that you're talking about.
Yeah, me too, Carrie. I mean, okay, I wasn't sure. One of the other things that I loved, and I hadn't even considered this, which is ironic because I've held countless new moon circles. So I'm like, I love when I get new information about something that I've been doing. A new idea is similar to a new moon. It is not fully formed, but contains vast potential and wonderful possibilities. As you explore your eastern territory with the help of the wind gods and goddesses, your reasoning powers will increase dramatically, and you will learn how to work effectively with your natural inner rhythms. Your reasoning powers will increase dramatically, and you will learn how to work effectively with your natural inner rhythms. Does that spark anything for either one of you?
For me, is when I have a new idea, I'm learning about what is for me and what isn't for me. And my reasoning, I guess, if you could say the reasoning behind what I do and why I want to do it is becoming more clear. Yeah, that's.
Have you been not using, but have you been working with a specific wind or a specific tool when you're in that decision point or trying to tease things out?
Oya. And there, things are being made clear. Like it's yes, Oya.
Mm-hmm.
Slashing sort of what is essential. I'm looking at it. It's clear. It's just clear that in the book, describes her as someone that will, an energy, a wind that will come in and clear things out of the way. And at first I was putting up resistance to it. But when I stopped doing that, so much open space has been made. So I guess that would be it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll share something, and it's funny because this was on the full moon actually. We went down to the lake, and I often talk about the relationship with the wind and the water, right? Well, one of the things that happens that I am not really fond of is when I want to do a burning ceremony and it's super windy at the lake, right? How does one reason their way through that? Because it's very frustrating. It's like cooking without salt. I can't even describe it any other way. I'm like, what do you mean I can't salt my food? This is terrible. So we were having a full moon ceremony. The wind was super strong. They were very present and super happy to play with us, and we could not get anything lit. And I very distinctly heard the water say, give it to me. I need it, not the winds. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. And so we did this release ceremony where we took there were these little stones that had washed up on the shore, and we, put what we were releasing into the stone and gave it to the water. And when we were done, the wind and the water, it was like they were already joined forces, but the way that my perception was working, it was like they were in unison, and the wind was raising the water, and we got washed out of our area because the tide had become so high. It was almost like she was giving us a quick cleanse and saying, thank you, like just a nice thank you for everything that you offered here today. And it was just so beautiful. Now, I can say these things to you, and I'm trying to do it in a really, tactile way of like, this is what happened and these were the steps, and but in the moment none of it needed to make sense, right? It was just that moment of being with the elements and really experiencing them and allowing what was going to happen. And so there's that duality again of the reason and non-reason, or the allowing or non-allowing, right? So at first I wanted to work against the wind and be like very agitated that we couldn't get any fire going, but the water needed what we had to release that day. And so we went with it and allowed it, and didn't think too much about it.
Yep, some things do not need explanations, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I love to like think about things, but sometimes it's just that in the moment experience that sweeps you away, Being present means leaving the past behind and moving forward. And that, I think, is one of the most difficult things, because a lot of identity is derived from the past and not so much the present. At least that's been my experience. And so I'm really curious, like being present means leaving the past behind and moving forward. Does that stand out to either of you in any way? Does it bring anything up?
It does bring up stuff. I'm not sure I want to talk about it.
Okay.
Well, it has to do with being chronically ill, and that dramatically changed my life. So when I'm in the present, I can be very happy with the day to day, and I don't think about what I used to do and I can't do anymore.
Mm,
So for me, it's a better deal.
yeah.
Be present even with what is that I don't like, my physical illness, but I can be present to life and enjoy it, embrace it, accept it, live on a much smaller scale than I would like, but it's a good thing. It's a good deal for me, the present,
Mm-hmm.
because the past is for me is it's painful.
Yeah. Yeah, I really understand that. One of the things, I'm just checking myself to see if this is relevant. I'll offer it. If it means anything to you, great. If not, then we'll just let it go. You know, I had written my book last year, Feathers of a Phoenix, and part of the intention behind writing that memoir was in the Toltec practices, a big part of becoming a teacher is writing down your story, like putting it to rest. It's a ceremony. It's leaving the past and your story of the past behind, almost like a burial, if you will, but with a lot of reverence and a lot of care. And so that was my book. And when I finished it and, you know, it went out into publication and we had the book signing and everything, I really cannot describe the feeling of that segment of my experience as a human being has ended. Yeah, and it brought forward new experiences that, you know, I'm still enjoying in this moment. But the connection to the past, like my courting to the past, really softened. It's like that was a part of me, but it is not all of me, and it's not the me of right now. It was almost like a rebirthing process. That's how I would describe it.
Great. Wow.
Yeah, it was very powerful. This was the last thing that I had highlighted, and oh, we're right at the time. Okay, perfect. Is there anything else that you or Carrie would like to share before I go ahead and wrap things up?
Nothing for me.
Okay.
Nope.
Okay. Heading into an east wind, life is a roaring call to adventure. A true adventure demands an upheaval in the natural order of your life. I put a little message next to that. Get out of our comfort zone. While the East is associated with light, vision, birth, childhood, intuition, and the untamable, it also demands our full attention. So we must be fully prepared for what lies ahead. Be mindful when the east wind is blowing. Endings followed by new beginnings await you on the horizon. I thought that was really beautiful and optimistic, which I like. So for the next chapter, we're going to be going on to chapter 6, The Cardinal Wind of the South, also known as Notice. And it begins on page 57, and we will be reading to page 62. And so I would just like to go ahead and close out our time together today. by thanking both of you for showing up, and also for all of those who were unable to attend and sent their energy in their stead. Thank you. And thank you to the entire community for being a part of this book study discussion. I've really enjoyed seeing the posts on the wall. And while my memory isn't the greatest of who posted what and all of the sharing, in the moment when I see it, I really appreciate it. So thank you. And I hope that everyone has a really great weekend, and thanking the winds for their presence in our call today and sending them back to their direction with care. Thank you, everyone. Carrie and Paula, thank you so much. Have a
Thank
great
you.
weekend.
Have a great
Thank
day.
you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.